The Wolf's Lair. Deep in Poland's forests sits the crumbling Wolf's Lair, Hitler's first Eastern Front headquarters. This wasn't just a command center. It was a fortress of paranoia, surrounded by bunkers, explosive traps, and underground escape routes. Hitler feared assassination constantly. Engineers camouflaged everything to hide from Allied aircraft. Anti-aircraft guns stood ready. Escape routes were rigged with explosives. If captured, the whole complex would self-destruct. On July 20, 1944, Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg tried to kill Hitler with a briefcase bomb. The explosion tore through the compound. Hitler survived. Security intensified. In early 1945, Soviet forces closed in. German troops detonated the complex, leaving only massive concrete shards as reminders of a paranoid regime. The Ries Complex. Poland's Owl Mountains hide the Ries Complex, a sprawling network of tunnels built between 1943 and 1945. The SS forced concentration camp prisoners to excavate rock and pour concrete in near darkness. Was it a command center? A weapons lab? Storage facility? No one knows for certain. Ventilation systems, blast doors, and rail lines suggest something massive was planned. But the project was never finished. Today, the abandoned labyrinth feels frozen in time, as if its creators vanished overnight. The Flak Towers. Rising above Berlin like concrete giants, the Flak Towers were Nazi Germany's ultimate defense structures. These massive bunkers housed anti-aircraft batteries, protected thousands of civilians, and safeguarded priceless artwork. Each tower was a self-contained fortress, bristling with artillery, radar, and searchlights scanning for enemy bombers. As Allied bombing intensified, museum treasures were moved inside these impenetrable vaults. The thick concrete walls absorbed direct hits with minimal damage. When Soviet forces fought into Berlin in 1945, these towers became desperate last stands. Some still stand today, silent witnesses to a city reduced to ashes. The Altaussee salt mine. As the Third Reich collapsed, Nazi officials raced to hide looted treasures. The Altaussee salt mine in Austria became their vault. Inside, the Ghent altarpiece by Jan van Eyck, works by Vermeer, Michelangelo, and countless others. Forced laborers built wooden crates and protective walls in the cold, damp tunnels. As defeat loomed, orders came to destroy everything rather than let it fall to the Allies. Local miners secretly sabotaged the plan, using fake explosives and redirecting bombs. When Allied forces arrived, the monument's men raced to recover these stolen masterpieces. They saved Europe's cultural heritage from Nazi destruction. The Amber Room. Originally a dazzling masterpiece of amber and gold, the Amber Room was gifted to Tsar Peter the Great. Nazi forces looted it when they invaded the Soviet Union, dismantling the entire room and transporting it to Königsberg Castle. Then it vanished. Legends surround its disappearance. Some believe it's hidden in a Nazi bunker rigged with traps. Others claim it was placed on a ship that sank in the Baltic Sea. A series of mysterious deaths have fueled speculation of a curse, treasure hunters and officials involved in its theft meeting bizarre fates. Decades of searches through mines, tunnels, and ruins have found nothing. A reconstructed Amber Room opened in 2003, but the original's fate remains one of World War II's most haunting mysteries. The Hagelock Reactor. By 1944, German physicists raced to unlock atomic energy. In Hagelock, southwest Germany, they converted a brewery cellar into a secret lab. Underground, shielded from air raids, they built a heavy water reactor. Led by Werner Heisenberg, the team attempted to create a self-sustaining chain reaction, a step toward a nuclear bomb. Allied forces repeatedly sabotaged heavy water shipments from Norway. Bombings disrupted progress. By war's end, success remained out of reach. When the U.S. Alsos mission arrived in 1945, they found the reactor unfinished but intact, uranium cubes suspended in rods. Dangerously close to nuclear power. Allied experts dismantled it immediately. Today, it's a museum, a haunting reminder of how close the Nazis came to the bomb. The Merkers treasure. In April 1945, U.S. troops entered the German town of Merkers and stumbled upon a staggering discovery: a secret treasure trove buried deep in a salt mine. Gold bars. Bags of gold coins. Silver bullion. Much of the Reichsbank's holdings were here. But the true horror wasn't the treasure, it was what else they found. Crates of stolen artwork. Personal belongings from Holocaust victims. Stacks of seized foreign currency. The full extent of Nazi looting laid bare. The monument's men rushed to secure stolen masterpieces. General Eisenhower himself visited to witness the discovery. Documentation became crucial evidence in prosecuting Nazi officials. Every artifact told a story of plunder and suffering. U-864 and its toxic cargo. In February 1945, German submarine U-864 departed carrying high-grade steel and mercury for Japan, meant to bolster Axis weapons technology. The British submarine HMS Venturer intercepted it off Norway's coast in the only recorded underwater duel between two submerged submarines. Venturer launched torpedoes, striking U-864 and sending it to the ocean floor. Decades later, the wreck was found. The submarine's hull had ruptured, releasing toxic mercury into the water. Norwegian authorities proposed entombing the sub to prevent further leakage. Conservation groups still monitor mercury levels near the wreck. The Nazi gold train. For decades, legend spoke of an armored train loaded with valuables hidden by retreating German forces near Wałbrzych, Poland. In 2015, two individuals claimed they'd found evidence of concealed railway tracks underground. Treasure hunters flooded the area. Geophysical scans and drilling attempts followed. No train was ever found. Critics argue local myths overshadowed facts. But the rumor persisted, often tied to the Reese complex. Municipal authorities capitalized on the attention, boosting tourism. Was it real or simply myth? Until definitive evidence emerges, the mystery endures, a reminder of the war's desperate final days. Die Glock, the bell. As the Third Reich crumbled, whispers emerged of a top-secret superweapon, Die Glock, or the bell. Alleged witnesses described rotating cylinders, exotic metals, and anti-gravity experiments. Some placed it near the Czech border, guarded by the SS. Most historians are skeptical. There's minimal documentation, no confirmed blueprints. But Germany did pursue experimental propulsion and particle physics research scattered across secret labs. Could Die Glock be real? Or did separate projects merge into one legend? The truth remains elusive, but the story endures. The Horten Ho 229. The Horten Ho 229 stands as a disturbingly futuristic relic. Designed by the Horten brothers, this jet-powered flying wing reduced radar cross-section, eerily foreshadowing modern stealth bombers. Built primarily of plywood and composites, its streamlined form minimized drag and carried dual-jet engines. The Luftwaffe saw potential in a fast fighter bomber that could outmaneuver Allied aircraft. Development accelerated in 1944, but resource shortages and bombings disrupted production. Only a handful of prototypes were built. None reached frontline service. At war's end, American forces captured an incomplete Ho 229 V3. Today, it's preserved at the Smithsonian, where experts have confirmed its significant radar scattering properties. Peenemünde. The V-weapons. Peenemünde in northern Germany was the testing hub for the V-1 flying bomb and V-2 rocket. Led by Wernher von Braun, these vengeance weapons aimed to break British morale. The V-1 was a pilotless pulse-jet missile with a distinct buzzing sound. The V-2 was a ballistic missile that arrived without warning. Though they caused destruction and fear, their strategic impact was limited by late deployment. But Peenemünde laid the groundwork for future space exploration. After the war, many scientists moved to the US or Soviet Union. In August 1943, British bombers launched Operation Hydra, targeting the facilities. The raid killed key personnel and delayed programs, but testing continued elsewhere. After Germany's surrender, Allied teams seized documents, parts, and entire rockets. Today, concrete remnants bear witness to Germany's brief pioneering in rocket technology. The Channel Islands fortifications. In 1940, Germany occupied the Channel Islands, the only British territory seized during the war. Hitler declared them a strategic stronghold. Coastal gun emplacements, radar towers, and underground bunkers sprouted across Guernsey, Jersey, and Alderney. Thousands of forced laborers built intricate tunnel networks and reinforced casemates into rocky outcrops. Garrisoned by thousands of troops, the islands remained under German control even after mainland France was liberated. The fortress became a cornered outpost, cut off from supply lines. When the islands were liberated in May 1945, Allied soldiers discovered entire underground complexes with leftover rations and equipment. Many bunkers remain intact today, converted into museums. Frankfurt's stolen possessions. Beyond artworks, Nazis confiscated personal possessions, especially from Jewish families. In Frankfurt, valuables were seized under discriminatory laws designed to strip communities of wealth. When U.S. forces entered the city, they searched abandoned factories, basements, and vaults. They discovered hoards of wedding rings, gold teeth fillings, and personal effects forcibly removed from deported individuals. These findings exposed the systematic robbery that financed the war effort and enriched Nazi officials. Allied authorities launched efforts to return items to rightful owners, but the process was daunting. Many records were destroyed. Survivors struggled to prove ownership. Some items were never claimed. Entire families had perished. The Eagle's Nest. High in the Bavarian Alps stands the Eagle's Nest, built as Hitler's 50th birthday gift. Perched atop a mountain above Berchtesgaden, it served as a retreat for Nazi leadership. An elaborate road was constructed, culminating in a tunnel with a brass-paneled elevator rising directly into the building. As Allied forces advanced into southern Germany, they expected fierce resistance. Despite its imposing appearance, the Eagle's Nest was taken without heavy fighting. Soldiers combed through lavishly decorated rooms, discovering how top figures relax in comfort even as their regime collapsed. Today, the Eagle's Nest operates as a tourist attraction, offering panoramic alpine views. Subterranean munitions factories. Harz Mountains. Late in the war, Germany moved production underground to escape Allied bombing. In the Harz Mountains, forced laborers dug tunnels for armament manufacturing. Railway lines extended deep into hidden complexes. Factories churned out small arms, tank parts, and munitions away from prying eyes. When American forces arrived in April 1945, they captured underground workshops, abandoned machinery, half-assembled weapons, and ammunition stockpiles. Ventilation, lighting, and worker accommodations were makeshift. Planners prioritized output over safety, leading to brutal conditions. Over the years, leftover bombs and hazardous chemicals have been found. Submerged passages remain dangerous with structural instability and potential unexploded ordnance. The Jonestal Tunnels. Allied intelligence picked up signals of hidden projects in central Germany's wooded hills. Reports indicated extensive tunnel systems built for undisclosed purposes. Facilities sprang up near towns like Jonestal, where laborers excavated rocky ground for rumored headquarters or advanced labs. Some accounts mentioned nuclear or missile research. U.S. and Soviet troops arriving in 1945 found incomplete corridors, partially installed ventilation, and occasional heavy machinery. Documentation was sparse. Captured officials provided vague or conflicting statements. Post-war, occupying forces extracted anything of scientific or military value. Local historians later revisited these networks, discovering construction materials and structural diagrams. Some entrances had collapsed, others were sealed. Debate continues about their original purpose. Without final records, we may never know. But the resource expenditure signaled the regime's desperation, mobilizing thousands to carve hideaways that never reached completion. Operation Bernhard's Counterfeits. Operation Bernhard was an audacious plan to flood Britain with forged banknotes, launched in 1942. German intelligence used skilled printers and concentration camp inmates to produce nearly perfect British pound notes. The goal: devalue British currency and disrupt financial stability. The operation eventually settled at Sachsenhausen concentration camp under rigorous secrecy. Prisoners worked day and night with specialized plates, high-quality paper, and inks. The forgeries were strikingly authentic. Many successfully entered circulation. By 1945, millions of pounds in counterfeit currency had been printed. As the Allies closed in, SS personnel tried to hide or destroy the printing equipment. Some forged notes were dumped in remote lakes. After the war, investigators uncovered hidden caches of counterfeit bills, printing plates, and production diaries. Evidence showed how Germany attempted financial sabotage alongside conventional warfare. Dora Mittelbau. Dora Mittelbau in the Harz region was a notorious concentration camp complex for secret armament production. Prisoners manufactured V-2 rockets under extreme conditions. Shifts lasted long hours with inadequate food or medical care. The tunnels were filled with dust and fumes, posing lethal risks. When U.S. forces arrived in April 1945, they witnessed an environment designed to exploit forced labor at any cost. Partially assembled rockets, test stands, and technical drawings cluttered the halls. Wooden bunks crammed into corners showed how workers lived and died yards from production. Allied experts seized rocket components and documentation, sending them to the United States. Authorities uncovered mass graves nearby, confirming the brutal toll. Local inhabitants recalled hearing daily explosions as rocket engines ignited during testing. Sections of the tunnel system remain accessible for educational purposes. Hitler's Bunker. The final entry takes us beneath Berlin's ruined streets to the Führerbunker, Hitler's subterranean refuge. Completed between 1936 and 1944, the structure connected to the Reich Chancellery above via reinforced corridors. By early 1945, as Soviet artillery thundered toward the city, top figures retreated into this confined warren of concrete rooms. Inside, officials strategized and disseminated propaganda. Maps tracked non-existent divisions. Generals delivered grim reports to leaders disconnected from reality. The bunker endured continuous bombardment but stayed mostly intact. Death and despair defined the atmosphere. In late April, Hitler and Eva Braun married in a small ceremony before ending their lives days later. Other prominent figures followed suit, destroying files and personal effects. When Soviet troops secured the area, they discovered empty corridors, scattered documents, and frantic attempts to burn records. Post-war authorities demolished parts of the bunker. Today, remnants lie beneath modern apartments and parking spaces, marked only by a discreet plaque. The site remains largely inaccessible, a final secret buried beneath Berlin.